Do you realize what this is? This is the projected growth of online decentralized storage networks demand over the next few years, of which ICP, I think, is going to play a very big part. Depin is the fastest growing narrative of 2024, and I think is going to be the lead narrative across this bull market. ICP has a very key part to play in part of this whole thing, and I'm going to talk about it in this video. I'm also going to talk about some very key and interesting things that are going on chain with ICP right now that are really key metrics for growth. As well as that, if you've got the patience to stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to give you my internet computer ICP price prediction. So do me a favor, hit that like button, and let's get into today's video. Now, if you subscribe to my channel, quite recently I've been doing lots of videos on something called Depin, or decentralized physical infrastructure networks. And many people go across to CoinMarketCap and they're like, hey, why are you not talking about ICP? Because it's the #1 Depin project. Well, according to this, it's the #1 based solely on market cap. And there's a handful of other coins up here that might be getting a little bit more exposure than the likes of ICP, most notably Render, which has featured quite a lot more recently. But it's key to understand the difference between types of Depin projects. ICP is not designed to handle all these different types of problems within that Depin area, but actually more geared towards the kind of storage network area. Now, as you look across Depin, there's a variety of different areas. Now, some of the most common Depin narratives, or narratives within Depin, would be the compute networks. Things like a cache, Render, which we've seen absolutely blowing up more recently. And there's a big reason for that. There's a global shortage in GPUs because of a huge demand on gaming, a huge demand within AI and large language training models like ChatGPT, etc., which demand loads and loads of computer power. So people have to go and use decentralized compute networks. This has seen a big deal of growth for Render, a cache, etc. But another big thing about the growth of AI right now is AI is growing so fast, it has a huge demand on decentralized storage. Whilst this is less sexy and not something that really excites that many people, it's really, really crucial. And as you can see, this image I showed you at the start is showing just how that growth on demand is taking place at the moment. Now, there are obviously off-chain solutions to this, such as iCloud, such as Google Drive, and things that I use on a daily basis, Dropbox perhaps. But right now, people are starting to go more and more to decentralized solutions. Why? Because it's significantly cheaper. Here you can see Filecoin, one of the leaders in the space at the moment, costing around 19 cents per terabyte per month. In comparison, you've got Amazon S3, one of the biggest out there, being $23.3. You've got Google Cloud, about $20 per terabyte per month. So you can automatically see why Filecoin, Arweave, and a few others might be more preferable solutions. And using Filecoin as a good example, and stick with me because I'm going to get to ICP in a minute, you'll see that Filecoin deals have absolutely been exploding over the last couple of years. And here you can see these deal sizes on the left. Now, this is telling us something extremely important. AI at the moment is blowing up like crazy. And a lot of centralized servers are not really able to provide this AI explosion with all the services it needs. Those things might be compute power handled by the likes of a cache, Render, and soon to be the likes of Ether and others, and storage providers such as Filecoin, Arweave, and you guessed it, ICP. So how does ICP really compete against Arweave and Filecoin, some older hats in the space? Well, it's considered to be the next generation, because as decentralized cloud infrastructure networks actually works in a very similar way to traditional off-chain solutions such as Amazon Web Services, but in a decentralized manner, it's able to provide a bunch of solutions, not just in storage. Now, obviously, storage itself can be fairly straightforward. You build a bunch of hard drive solutions and things can just get stored away. And that's pretty much where Arweave finishes off. That said, Arweave still looks pretty good and already has a market cap at like $500 million. Filecoin takes things a little bit further, offering IPFS through its Filecoin FVM, or Filecoin Virtual Machine. Now, this is basically like the librarian who has access to all of these stored documents and can basically decide which viewers are entitled to see different documents along the way. You might then go and look for a certain document, and then that AI can go ahead and give you other documents that are suited to the person who's looking for these documents. This is really important because it allows for differentiation to happen along the filing system. Does that make sense? But ICP basically offers the entire solution. Now, a lot of these kind of like ICP army purists get really hyped up and excited about this particular thing. This is basically using the blockchain to replace the legacy stack internet, where basically the ICP stack is built onto the internet itself, and then on top of this you build what are called canisters. These canisters are basically smart contracts, and developers basically come in and they rent these canisters for ICP tokens, which are then burned back into the system via a burn mechanism, and these canisters then offer a flexible opportunity to create various different decentralized applications of all different types. And this is what's very exciting about ICP, because it offers a huge variety of solutions, but today we're focusing more into this as a Depin solution. Now, if you've ever come across and looked at the ICP website, which hopefully by now you have, then you'll see lots of interesting bits and pieces. But most notable here is the $5 per gigabyte per year built in terms of smart contract memory. Now, other projects out there, such as Ethereum, are incredibly expensive, and others, Solana, although much cheaper than Ethereum, still kind of expensive for storage on networks. But as we see other things starting to move on-chain, such as social media, etc., which are large storage platforms that require loads and loads of storage information, something like ICP would be able to handle that, but the Solanas, etc. wouldn't be able to. Therefore, as we look towards storage solutions, ICP seems to be a more and more convincing choice, and I think could well start to steal away market share from both the likes of Arweave, Filecoin, and some of the other ones. Now, there's definitely something to consider, because if you're subscribed to my channel, which of course you are because you were watching my ICP videos that I made throughout last year, talking about what was going on with ICP, saying that it was incredibly undervalued when it was around $2.80 or around $3. Currently, the price is looking around $13. Something we need to consider then is, while yes, ICP is looking incredibly exciting, and yes, it has all of these different bits and pieces to offer us, is it going to be really gathering as much momentum as many people are planning on right now? Well, there is a metric to check, and it's this. If we come across to DeFiLlama.com, you can see something very interesting that's happened to ICP over the last kind of few years. Now, this is back through 2021, 2022, not much information about ICP around the time, and now you can see the number of developers, which are these red bars, coming in all the time. We're seeing some good levels of expansion, although starting to take a little bit of a dip here. In terms of the TVL, or total value locked, again, 11 million is not a huge amount of money. And whilst we can look at stories like this that tell us that supply storage has been growing more than 5x per year, but the demand is growing over 10x per year, which again really supports our confirmation bias behind ICP and why it's potentially going to be huge with this storage going on forward. In terms of its growth, it's still not hoovering up all that storage providing stuff, unlike the likes of Filecoin, which you can see here, the FVM net monthly deposits growing through to the end of last year, and that's been continuing through this year according to the Masari reports. So yes, it does appear like ICP is going to be able to really start to solve some issues within that whole Depin space, but I would like to see more Depin projects starting to move over to ICP. And right now, while we are seeing some developers moving across into the space, it's still not happening perhaps at the rate that people are predicting or anticipating into the future. And that's probably just because it's a bit new. The biggest threat for ICP remains this: Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Services, and some of the others, which are some of the biggest companies in the entire world, pretty much have a monopoly over everything. And yes, ICP, I feel, is a solution that's going to come in and potentially change this forever. But it's also worth considering how realistic this is to happen in the future. Yes, to be honest, I think ICP is probably the most exciting, most ambitious tech in the entire crypto space, with the biggest team in any blockchain project. But we as humans don't always really like to change that readily. Just because something out there seems better, it doesn't necessarily mean that we go and move over. These massive switches take time for people to adjust and feel more comfortable making these moves. It's the same when it gets to big business and anything like that. ICP, I think, is going to have a strong bull market, but I think many of the predictions and ideas about where ICP is going in the next 2 or 3 years could be maybe slightly overinflated given the ambition level of this project. That said, I think by 2030, then I'm going to be singing a very different song, but I think it's worth managing the expectations of a project like this right now. If, however, we do start to see huge amounts more adoption going on, more projects opening up on ICP, more and more developers moving over onto ICP, then that is an extremely bullish sign. And actually, if we see more institutional money flooding into the ecosystem, then we could have a bit of a flywheel effect as the value of working on this chain becomes more and more exciting. But so before we look into a price prediction, I think it's worth understanding there's always pros and cons to any project out there, and to have an open mind and think about all the different ideas in front of us. Now, currently it is the evening of Thursday the 15th. So what we can see right now with ICP is we are sat casually around the $13.6 level. Now, I talked about this on a video I made a few days ago, and it shows the new YouTube views compared with the market price. And you're like, well, why would you tell me that? Well, this is important. Right now, we're not really seeing new individuals, new retailers like you and me entering into the space. And the typical measure for this is how many views YouTubers on crypto are getting. Now, these are the bigger YouTube channels. And yes, I do think that there's more competition now. So maybe the results here are a bit skewed. But you can see, unlike before, where we go into this big bull market and the number of viewers and retailers flooding in goes absolutely crazy, it does look like it's still running through a fairly quiet period of time, which means right now, most of the growth that we've seen in the likes of ICP, Bitcoin, etc., has already been institutional. And this, I think, accounts for a lot of that institutional money. So there's a good chance that we could continue to see institutions loading up on crypto. Most of this money down here isn't really from the smarter investors, because in the retail space, there's not a huge amount of money right now in crypto, because that retail space really isn't that big. I do think that we could see further pushes in the price of ICP from institutions before we get that kind of flood of retailers coming in. Now, how those new retailers react to a storyline like ICP could be something that's very positive. It's already captured a lot of attention in this like ICP cult that's been formed. Probably shouldn't call you the cult, ICP army, whatever you want to call yourselves, but there's like the Casper army, the XRP army, and these strange organizations build around certain crypto projects, which has been very positive for the ICP price so far. Now, in terms of where ICP goes in the future, then we need to think about a few things. Remember, this is 2030, and this is the projected size of the market for storage over the next few years, $472 million, which is pretty exciting considering at the moment the market cap for ICP is $6.2 billion, which is pretty big. But it started to take a bigger and bigger portion of that storage network space, as well as having a load of new projects built on chain and other bits and pieces, as well as loads of retailers flooding in. Then we could see some very healthy price pushes. But remember, this is a competitive market. There's loads of new coins all over the space that are all boasting that they're the best and most exciting projects going. So I think from around $6.2 billion, then for ICP to go to maybe towards $100 billion is ambitious, but not beyond it within this bull market. Now, I talk about within this bull market, because if ICP goes to around $100 billion, then that's like a 12x, which would be around $140 per token, which I think is ambitious, but could be very exciting. Now, I just want to say something as well. Lots of people are like, well, yeah, but I'm invested for the next 8 or 9 years. Guys, I don't care how good you think ICP or any other project is. It's going to get to these overinflated prices by basically having all these people flooding into the market being like, take my money. It's the same in any project out there, whether it's a game, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin last bull market went up to 70k, dropped back down to 15. This bull market, it could go to like 140. I'm sure at some point it will drop back down to like 30 grand. And how this whole cycle progresses. ICP reaches the top, let's say somewhere in the middle of 2025. From there, it will likely have a good, healthy pullback like every other project does. The average, I think, in the last bull market was around sort of 78%. So that would bring ICP all the way back down to around $30. If you're buying right now and you're anticipating holding for the next 8 years, I have no idea why one might want to do that. You're much better off buying now, waiting. If it gets to around $100, you could sell up. So if you had $1,000 right now, you get to $100, you cash out your $7,200, something like that. It comes back down to here. Let's say you find the bottom again, your $7,200, you're going to do like a 3x here. Now you're on $21,000 rather than just sort of being sat in here, waiting all the way down here, and then just staying to here and then cashing out for a 7x, which would be 7 grand, which would be 33% of the potential you could have by selling the top of the market and getting back into the bottom. And actually, it's really not that hard to sell within a range of the top of the market and towards the bottom of the market. And if you want to know exactly when I will be buying and selling tops and bottoms of markets, then make sure you're subscribed. But guys, I'm extremely excited about ICP. I love what they're doing, and I think it's a very bright project for the future. I'm definitely invested, and I will continue to bring you ICP updates as time goes on. Now, I'm delighted to say that today's video is in partnership with My Lovely Planet, the team of which were creators behind Candy Crush, which has an annual revenue of $1 billion, and Clash Royale, which now has over 100 million users. My Lovely Planet is these new, simple mobile phone games that you can download from the App Store or Google Play Store. They already have around 20 to 30,000 users and are continually onboarding people all the time. They're backed by some of the biggest names in the entire gaming industry, such as Ubisoft and Unity. It's also a game to try and help with climate protection. Now, they're in pre-sale right now, and I'll tell you how you can get in on this in just a moment, as well as how to get discount on tokens. Now, right now, the project is likely to launch with a valuation somewhere in and around $430,000. Bearing in mind they're backed by some of the biggest names in the gaming, they already have a working product with more and more people being onboarded all the time. There's a potential that a game like this could reach somewhere around 100 million users, similar to games like Clash Royale, which would probably give a valuation roughly, let's say, around $500 million. And that would be around 1,000x from that current valuation of $430,000. And now I've probably got your attention. The game is a free-to-play game where people can buy buying tokens and other bits and pieces within the game, similar to how they do on Candy Crush. This is another interesting thing because it's going to mean that people are getting onboarded into crypto without even realizing that this is a blockchain game. That's very powerful. Not only that, but they're also working towards helping climate protection, which is not only a great thing for people who care about the environment like me, but also a great way to onboard people into this game. I heard that it costs around $3 to onboard an individual into Candy Crush because of marketing costs and all those different bits and pieces. However, in comparison, it costs around 12 cents to onboard someone into My Lovely Planet. So money will flood back into this ecosystem. It will go into driving the growth of the game. If the game grows big enough and people were making lots of trades and sales, it ultimately will drive up the value of the coin. Not only that, when people are planting trees in the game, they want to plant around 1 billion trees in nature. They also want to remove around 100 million tons of plastic from the oceans and all sorts of other great bits and pieces. They're trying to enter into a market that's worth over $100 billion per year, and you can see all the statistics down below. Over 500,000 followers on TikTok, and are now starting to onboard more people, KOLs, etc. to get the word out there about this. Now you can see the token that basically runs the whole ecosystem is going to be My Lovely Coin, and the whole project is called My Lovely Planet. There's more and more information you can find out, and you can go through the link down below to see the roadmap and all of the team here, which is very transparent. You can see all of the stuff going on. So bearing in mind this is a potentially very lucrative ICO project, obviously or not, I recommend going and checking it out. Link down below in the description where you can come across to here. Now, if you use the code HOUSEOFCRYPTO, you'll also get a 10% additional tokens. Bearing in mind the launch price, remember, was around $150,000 at 0.1. So if the project gets to be worth being around $4.3 million, then you'll 10x your investment. If it gets to being around $43 billion, which is not unheard of in crypto games, then you'll 100x your investment. However, the price currently is 0.087. So you actually get an additional 13% growth on that. And as well, if you use my link, you'll get an additional 10% in tokens. Pretty much a no-brainer, a very exciting project indeed. Now, in order to buy, just click on buy now, and you will have to go through, click on buy MLC or My Lovely Coin. You can see the time is running out before the price is increased. Select your country of residence, select that you're over 18 and all those other bits and pieces. Now you'll see that you have to identify your KYC or know your customer, which means you do have to fill in some details in order to participate in the sale. Now, depending on which country you are in the world, you may find this more difficult. Here you can see choose your payment method. You can choose with USDT, BNB or Ethereum, or you can play with a credit card. For example, if you click Ethereum, then you can fill in your wallet address, which might be a MetaMask account or something like that. You put in the amount that you want to buy, for example, let's say 1 Ethereum here, and then you can choose a vesting period. If you go for longer vesting periods, you get additional bonus, but that does mean that you can't pull your tokens out until kind of 3 years is up. However, if you go for less vesting, which is basically unlocked over a period of time, then you won't receive extra bonus rewards, but you will be able to pull your tokens out. Now, vesting over a year, you can see, you can learn more, and you will be kind of locked in over a period of time. But that's really important. If everyone's locked in, it means the value of the project can increase. Really good to see, and something we should be looking for if we're involved early in projects. All of that can be found out down below. Make sure you follow that link and use House of Crypto if you wish to enter. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video on ICP, do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, you want to find out more about projects like ICP, My Lovely Planet, and others, then subscribe, and I'll see you in the very next video. Bye-bye.